left side or the right side, then it must be the FinSide. It ain't the left side.
Thank you, Solo D, and welcome to another episode of On the FinSide. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribe to our channel on iTunes and YouTube as well. So here we are looking into the Miami Dolphins-Cleveland Browns matchup. The first matchup at Hard Rock Stadium. The Dolphins are 9.5-point favorites. The Browns have a wealth of injuries heading into this game. Paul, what are some initial thoughts on your end heading into this Cleveland Browns-Miami Dolphins matchup this Sunday?
Well, it's definitely interesting that we're 9.5-point favorites considering that we're 0-2. But one of the big things I need to see this week is I get that Vance Joseph's really just getting started. I get that Adam Gase is really just getting started in his head coaching career. We need to see them not out-coach themselves. I really want to see them put the offense, for starters, in a position to essentially just be in that read, react, and play football mode. We've said for the past 4 years, that's when Tannehill's at his best. When they went to that last weekend, he really showed it. So did the rest of the offense. The offense got in a groove. You didn't see somebody who was overthinking at all. You just saw them go out and play. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing how they could finish or move forward with the development of the chemistry between Parker and Tannehill, which was exciting. And I really want to see Vance Joseph put in a defensive scheme that fits the opponent, because last weekend he was coaching scared, and we cannot win a game against anybody with them coaching that way.
Well, they definitely can't win coaching scared, and specifically on defense. These defensive backs need to play more up on these Cleveland Browns wide receivers. There's no Corey Coleman, the first-round pick out of Baylor, who had 2 touchdowns last week by halftime, broke his hand, and is not going to be available for this game. Josh Gordon is still suspended. He won't be back for a few more weeks. RG3 is going to be out. Josh McCown is going to be out. So they're down to third-string quarterback Cody Kessler. I mean, I'll tell you what, if they, on defense, don't know what to do at this point, and they're playing 5, 6, 7 yards off these receivers, then I don't know what the hell they're doing. And when you look at the rest of the Cleveland Browns roster, not only do you have RG3, Josh McCown, Corey Coleman, and Josh Gordon out, you also, on the offensive line, you have Cameron Irving, their center, out, so John Greco is going to move from right guard to center, really weakening the right side of that offensive line that Cameron Wake is going to be going up against. And defensive end, Carl Nassib, the third-round pick out of Penn State, also broke his hand. He's should be unavailable for this game. Also, the safety Abraham as well is going to be missing for this game too. So Derek Kindred, the rookie out of TCU, is going to be taking his place. Lots and lots of injuries there for the Cleveland Browns. But going back to my other point too, Paul, when you look at the right side of the Browns offensive line, they're going to have right guard Alvin Bailey in there. They're going to have right tackle Austin Pastor, and Cameron Wake needs to get off the ground this week. I mean, he only had 16 snaps last week, and we're paying this guy, $8 to $9 million a year.
Well, not just Cameron Wake with the 16 snaps. It's one of the things when you mentioned the corners needing to play up. The defensive linemen need to play more. I know we talked a little bit about it in our game preview, in our game review previously, but you look at that final drive, and Ndamukong Suh's on the sidelines, Mario Williams on the sidelines for a lot of it, and Chris Jones is out there on the field. Chris Jones shouldn't be on the field. I get there's a defensive rotation. You've got Jason Jones and Julius Wormsley that can kick at a defensive tackle. You've got Jordan Phillips and Ndamukong Suh. So that's 4 people right there that can play there. And then at defensive end, Terrence Finney shouldn't be on the field very often right now. So hopefully they get a little smarter with the defensive rotation this week. I know you want to keep guys fresh, especially going into 4 days rest for next weekend or next Thursday night's game against Cincinnati. But you need to actually have your stars on the field to be successful. And the way they rotated the defensive line last week was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious.
Well, it's not only atrocious, but when you look at what we're paying, what the Miami Dolphins are paying these defensive linemen, Ndamukong Suh, Cameron Wake, Mario Williams. Cameron Wake, I understand he's 35 years old, and he's best, and it's been demonstrated that he should be playing between 30 and 35 snaps per game. Well, he played 16 last week, and one of those snaps, he absolutely destroyed the right tackle, and it was called back on a penalty, not surprisingly. So we'll see what happens there. there. But yeah, I mean, hopping around a little bit, looking at the Browns from last week, the Browns were up 20-0 in this football game to the Baltimore Ravens 10 minutes into the game, didn't score a point the rest of the way. And now you take out the quarterback, you take out their second quarterback, you take out Corey Coleman, and Josh Gordon at wide receiver is not going to be there. If the Dolphins defensive backs are not playing up in the faces of these wide receivers, Terrell Pryor and Andrew Hawkins, who can't beat you deep, then I don't know what they're doing. Additionally, Isaiah Crowell had a great game against Baltimore last week, 134 yards rushing, but 85 of them came on one run. So Isaiah Crowell is a player who's between the tackles, very, very good, but not somebody who should keep the Dolphins up at night. What are a few matchups, Paul, that you think really benefit the Dolphins?
I really think the wide receiving core against that secondary should be absolutely lights out in this game. I mean, their secondary is bad. We talked with Pete Smith about how Jamar Taylor, who I know we're all familiar with, is doing out there. But he just seemed absolutely disgusted with the fact that Taylor was the second best option available. Sounds like their secondary can't cover anyone. And Miami's got a lot of lethal threats. So I think this is definitely something that could benefit the Dolphins. I don't know how our running game is going to do. I hope Tannehill's not our leading rusher again, even though he only needs 42 yards to surpass Bob Greasy as the all-time leading rushing quarterback for the Dolphins. But, yeah, I think that's the biggest matchup, and I really think our corners could win the matchup against the Browns, which I know you felt into a little bit already.
Yeah, and I was looking at the Browns Ravens game last night from the previous week. Joe Haden had 2 interceptions when he was challenged, and he very easily could have had 4 interceptions in that game defending Mike Wallace. And as long as the Dolphins stay away from Joe Haden, which I hope they do, then I think they have a lot of matchup issues that they can exploit. I mean, not just whoever Joe Haden's up against, whether that's Jarvis Landry, whether that's Devontae Parker, I would suggest Ryan Tannehill stay away from that matchup because there are too many other options in the passing game for the Dolphins with Landry, even with Jordan Cameron stepping up last week, and hopefully they get Kenny Stills and Leonte Carroo a little bit more involved too. But it's very simple. As long as Tannehill is protected, then I think he's going to have some opportunities to exploit those one-on-one matchups. Paul, looking at the running back position, and we talked about the running game, Ryan Tannehill was the leading rusher last week with 35 yards. We've seen that quite a bit in the past. Are you hoping Jay Ajayi gets the bulk of the carries, or are you looking to see a little bit more Kenyon Drake in this matchup?
Well, not just those two, but I'm also hoping to see a little bit of Isaiah Pead. Miami needs to figure out who the hell their running back is. I'm all for platooning to a degree, but they need to figure out who their primary guy is and how to deploy him. It's atrocious that we don't know at this point. I mean, even when Arian Foster was healthy, we kind of knew, but the way they were rotating, they've got to get somebody that can get it rolling on that element of the game. And right now, none of them are. So hopefully we see a little bit more Pead, a little bit more Drake, and Ajayi gets a little fire under his ass.
I hope Jay Ajayi is off the roster as soon as possible, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't see what he brings to the table anymore. He's not good in pass protection. He's not good in the receiving game. He's slow, and now he fumbles and pouts. I mean, to me, Isaiah Pead could potentially make Jay Ajayi expendable. And I agree with you. I hope Isaiah Pead, when looking at the whole package, ends up being the starting running back for this football team. Keep in mind, we're not talking about just some schmo here, somebody who just came out of nowhere. Who is this guy? He hasn't proven anything. Where did he come from? I mean, he was a former second-round pick in 2012. Didn't work out with the Rams, had some personal issues, had some injury issues. I think Pead could potentially be that package, and this would be a great game to bust out on that. And Arian Foster is likely to be out in this game with a groin injury for a multitude of reasons that I won't get into. I'm very thankful that he's not going to be available in this game. So, Paul, looking at this matchup, in addition to that, a couple of things that I fear, and one specifically is Isaiah Crowell is that downhill running threat for the Browns. We saw that last week against Baltimore. We're going to have Joe Thomas at left, or they're going to have Joe Thomas at left tackle, Joel Bitonio at left guard, which, even though the Browns are not a good football team, That's a fantastic left side of their offensive line. They're going to be going up against Jordan Phillips and Mario Williams. It's very key that the Dolphins control that matchup, or at least make it acceptable there. Because when you look at last week, Isaiah Kroll, that 85-yard run that he had, major hole on the left side. Not a surprise because Joe Thomas and Joel Bitonio are very good at creating those holes. But that's a matchup the Dolphins have to control. What matchups do you think? Which matchups may be worrying you and causing you some hesitation in this game, Paul?
I'm definitely with you on that left side of the line. You know, Mario Williams and Jordan Phillips really are going to have to get that push upfield. But yeah, Kroll to either side of the line, given the fact that Miami had tackling issues last week, given the fact that they let LeGarrette Blount run all over them, that's a huge worry. Another matchup's going to be Barnidge, the tight end. Linebacker struggled a lot against Martellus Bennett last week, and Barnidge is a very good up-and-comer, and with a young quarterback in place for the Browns, there's a very high likelihood that he utilizes a lot of tosses to the tight end and possibly a lot of short running back passes. So the linebackers are really going to have to be a lot more what they were in Seattle than what they were against the Patriots last week, as well as Rashad Issa back there.
Yeah, right. That's an interesting matchup. That's an interesting matchup with the linebackers, not only against Gary Barnidge, the tight end, but also against Duke Johnson, the running back, who's going to be second fiddle to Isaiah Kroll. But Duke Johnson's a different player. He's not the downhill running threat. He's more that receiving threat. So he's been a little bit quiet. So he could be an interesting player to piece in here. Gary Barnidge at tight end. I was telling Pete when we were looking at the Browns matchup, Gary Barnidge has 4 catches for 39 yards this year in 2 games. So he really hasn't gotten involved yet, but also Corey Coleman has been playing this entire year. He won't be, so you can expect Barnidge to do that. What will frustrate the hell out of me is if the Dolphins are not playing up on these receivers, are not playing close to the line of scrimmage, and we're letting Gary Barnidge and Duke Johnson get these 15 or 20-yard dump passes.
I'm with you 100% on that. That's the only thing about the Browns that really scares me. The defense doesn't scare me all that much, even though they're better than people think. Those types of plays, which lead back to the coaches out-coaching themselves, and that's going to be Miami's biggest Achilles heel, something we've dealt with this past several coaching staffs. And we need that to not be the case. We need Gase and Vance Joseph to be the guys. And this is a game to come out and show a little bit of that.
Yeah, and needless to say, this is do or die. If the Dolphins go 0-3 here, losing to the Browns in Miami in their home opener, man, oh man, it's going to be. Seriously, you may as well just close the door on the season. It's that simple. You lose to Cody Kessler and the Cleveland Browns in Miami, it's just never going to happen. Here's the upside of this: say the Dolphins. I don't care how the Dolphins get to 1-2. If they do that, and then they play at Cincinnati the following week, squeeze out a win there somehow. Now they're 2-2. You look at the rest of their schedule in the upcoming 2 months. You've got the Titans at home. You've got the Steelers at home. That'll be a tough game. You got the Bills at home. You'll be favored in that one too. Then a bye week. Then the Jets at home. So you're going to be favored after the Bengals game if you can get to 2-2 in 3 of your next 4 games with a bye. And then the 3 games even after that, at San Diego, at St. Louis, and the 49ers at home. Very winnable games. So I've always looked at the schedule, Paul, and said, okay, if the Dolphins can just get to 2-2, then we can really start having some fun here throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest scary point for me after watching the Patriots game this week is if they're winning this much with so many backups right now, it's going to be absolutely terrifying come week 5 or so when Brady's back and really angry, something to prove Tom Brady. So it's a very real possibility that Miami might be playing for the wild card already at this point, even if they get to 2-2.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be rough.
I think we should assume that the Dolphins are going to be playing for the wild card. I mean, yesterday in Houston, they go in with their 3rd-string quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, and go 3 and win the game 27-0, go 3-0, and now you've got Tom Brady coming back. The Patriots are going to win 13 or 14 games. Dolphins are not going to win more than 10, even if they have a very good year. I mean, but hey, if the Dolphins go 10-6, get a wild card spot, take advantage of this progressively easy schedule, then I think that's a fantastic launch year for the Miami Dolphins. But they've got to win this game, because if not, now the season at 0-3 gets very, very close to going off the rails. So, Paul, what's your prediction for this Browns game?
I think Miami wins, and Miami wins big. I mean, it's very telling when even talking to Pete Smith, who covers the Browns, his answer was Miami should win this game. So I look at this. I think Gase learns a little from last week, gets Tannehill in that no-huddle situation, which I don't think the Browns are staffed to deal with at this point, and really pushes the ball up and down the field, most of the passing game, unfortunately. But even so, I think 30-10 Miami. I think Kroll or Duke Johnson do find the end zone at some point. But I think 30-10 Miami is a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, I was going to go with 35-13. I think Ryan Tannehill, again, for the second week in a row, is well protected. And as long as he avoids Joe Haden in the secondary, there are going to be a lot of opportunities to exploit the Browns safeties, as well as former Dolphins cornerback Jamar Taylor. So, again, I'll go with 35-13. We'll see what happens. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on iTunes. And you can tweet your questions to hashtag FinSideQ, and we'll read them on the air, and we'll talk about them. So, Paul, in the words of Brian Miller, if it's not on the right side, if it's not on the left side, it is on the fin side.
It ain't the left side or the right side, and it must be the fin side. It ain't the left side or the right side, and it must be the fin side.
Listen, Dolphins fans across the land all tuning in to see what Brian, Cat, and Paul about to do again. We rep our team, you can't change, stop, or ruin it. All we need is to figure what to do to win. Fins Radio, live and direct. Win or lose, we showing up for every contest. No puppet talk, it's all raw and unfiltered. Voice of the fans when the season looks peculiar. Rockin' apple orange over here, then you familiar. Every week they coming through our speakers to fulfill the crave we have to hear about our team and all the latest news. Vets the rookies trying to make the team, paying dues. Current players and alumni interviews. City to city, state to state, follow the moves. Call the hotline, Dolphins talk set to go. Best sports team and show all across the globe.
It ain't the left side or the right side,